Today is October 30th, 2017. Your homework for tonight is packet pages 2 and 3 in your reproduction packet. Make sure you have that copied down. Today's objective question, we already said, is where does fertilization and development occur in a Homo sapien? So let's just recall, what does the word fertilization mean? You learned fertilization in plants. What happens when a plant gets fertilized, Tyler? What happens when there's fertilization in a plant? What has to come together? You know, think about it. What do we make? What's the ultimate goal of the flower? To reproduce. Good. So how do we do that, Dwayne? Yeah, we make a seed. So how do we make a seed? What two things have to come together to make the seed? It happens in the ovary, but what's in the ovary that will become the seed? The egg. Good. So what joins with the egg to become a seed? What part of the plant joins with the egg to become a seed? You got this. You said it. I heard you. Yes, the pollen grains. Good. So we're going to be looking at how humans, Homo sapiens, fertilize and develop. So I need you guys to open up your note packet, I believe, to page 3. There's a chart. Packet page 3, yellow notes. Let's go. You're going to be working with partners today. Today's lesson is a little bit trickier because you have to make a lot of inferences. You have to think. You have to banter with your partner, with your neighbor. So on the 3rd page, this is how organisms reproduce sexually. If it's sexual, how many parents do we need? We need 2 parents. Good. We have the first one is the what? Good. The female. And then we have the male. Good job. All right, so we call the cells for the female, she has a special name, the cells. We call these cells gametes. The term gamete is actually derived from a Greek word meaning husband and wife. These are gametes. So the gamete for the female, gamete and gametes or something, is the male. And that is, I probably pronounced it wrong, but that's okay. This is how we describe the cell that the male holds and how we describe the cell that the female holds. The female has a special cell, and it's actually pretty big. Well, it's not big, but it's bigger than the male cell. This houses all the nutrients that it needs to grow and develop. This cell has a special name, and it's actually the same name as the plant has. What do we call this cell for the female? The female gamete has a special name. It looks like the picture. What's it called? What do you think? Exactly. It's an egg. The egg has instructions. What do we call instructions that organisms have? That's inside the nucleus. There's special instructions. Yeah, it's DNA. But the egg doesn't have all the DNA, doesn't have all the instructions. How many instructions does it have? Can you open that door? What percentage of instructions does it have? It only has half of the DNA. Can I help you? Okay, that's all right. Thank you. Okay. He's not even here today. He's absent, yeah. Okay, thank you. I'll give it to him tomorrow. All right. The egg has half of the DNA, and then the other piece, the male gamete. What's the male's gametes called? The male gamete. What do we call it? You got it. And that has half of the DNA also. That's perfect. And we call the male sperm the male gamete, the female gamete. So when I talk about gametes, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the cells that have to come together. When these 2 cells come together, they merge, they join, they unite, and 2 cells become how many cells? 1 cell. So for like seconds of your life, you're 1 cell. Milliseconds, you're 1 cell, and that 1 cell has a special name. That 1 cell is called the zygote. You are a zygote. For a very, very, very short period of time, you're one cell. But that one cell doesn't stay one cell for long. It has to become two. What do we call that when a cell divides? Well, you're close. Yeah, it's fission. We call it fission. With humans, we call it mitosis. Cell division is mitosis. Cell division. Fission is division. When this divides into many cells, it becomes many cells, like millions of cells. And these millions of cells start to develop. All of this happens inside the human. The merging, the joining, the uniting to become one. That zygote becomes one when it gets what? What happens to it? It gets... Exactly. It gets fertilized. This is fertilization. This happens in many different organisms that undergo sexual reproduction. They all have to fertilize their eggs, but they all don't do it the same way. Peacocks have unusual mating rituals. All birds have different mating calls, right? They have to attract the other one. The girl birds are ugly. The male birds are very pretty. Why do you think that is? Why do you think the males are so much prettier? They have to do what? There's a competition. They have to beat out the other males. If they beat out the other males, they are going to transfer their DNA. So they have to be the most attractive. So the males have to do more of the work than the females because the girls have they have a small amount of eggs. The male have a lot of sperm and DNA. Okay, so at the end, the zygote then becomes an embryo. We're going to watch a small movie clip from National Geographic, and it's about a frog. So we're going to look at something that's going to be fertilizing externally. What does that mean, external? If it's fertilizing externally, it's going to happen on the outside. Females, as far as humans are concerned, we fertilize on the inside. So this one's going to be a little bit different. All right, I need someone to shut the lights for me, please. I'll go back in a second. It'll be okay.
Red-eyed tree frogs live in the canopy of the Panamanian rainforest. When it comes time to mate, both parties do what it takes to find a convivial spot. If the female chooses a place that's too low, her brood could be washed away by the next tropical storm. This is a rainforest, don't forget. But the home must overhang a pond, so the tadpoles can kerplop into the water when they're ready. She carries the male around, piggyback style, until she finds her dream leaf. She starts laying her 30 to 50 eggs.
She lays 30 to 50 eggs. How many eggs do female humans have? Just one. Think about this.
In an astonishing time-lapse shot, we see the eggs.
Time-lapse means we fast-forward it. So it doesn't happen this fast in real life.
They're almost ready to be on their own, and none too soon. A hungry vine snake, 3 feet of elegant...
What's going to happen to some of these eggs?
Slithers toward the eggs. Here's the egg at 4 days, a recognizable tadpole. It's ready to hatch and drop into the water. But there are fish just waiting for a plump, delicious, helpless tadpole. Talk about fate. The possibility of being gobbled by a vine snake versus the possibility of being thrown into the water into the mouth of a waiting predator below. And then there's this dragonfly nymph, one of the fiercest, scariest, hungriest creatures in this ecosystem. How'd you like your first and last memory of life to be this face? And yet, can we leave you on a happy note? Some tadpoles will avoid instant death, grow into adult red-eye tree frogs, and take to the trees, where this whole cycle can begin again.
Okay, so we're going to pause. The frogs had 30 to 50 eggs, she said. What happened to most of them? They die. So what do you expect? How many do you expect to live? Maybe 10, maybe less. So in order for the frog's eggs to survive, she has to make a lot of eggs because she knows the risk when they develop externally. There's a lot of risks there. So what you guys are going to do is work with the partner on the bottom. I'm going to pause this for a second so that this is what your chart should look like. Your gametes for external fertilization needs to be a lot of them. The parents do not need to be together because the female fish can lay the eggs and then the male can come by later. It's a poor chance of survival because they can get eaten. And organisms like fish, coral, sponges, and frogs can undergo this type of fertilization. Okay, make sure you check your answers for your chart.